Mm-hmm.
I think we're looking pretty set.
Okay. Do you have the blankets?
I don't. I have the cocoa.
Okay, we got the cocoa. Do we have the fire?
I don't have the fire.
That was
I've
the
got a
one.
pretty uncomfortable.
We...
I know.
So we came out here all this way. we brought our sheets and notes. We have no light source, so we can't see, and it's cold outside.
Yeah. I did bring the couch, a real couch that I have in my living room. I'm not on it right now, but I did decide to bring it out just for this occasion.
Okay, solid.
It's basically the same as a church pew, except it has springs basically. So you're basically just sitting on springs. It's like an old raggedy mattress.
That's insane.
It's very heavy. It's extremely uncomfortable.
I just see the dirt trail going for like a mile back.
Quite overdue with our playoffs.
Welcome back, everybody, to week 5.
His question is.
Let's get
pretty good viewing couch.
Let's get comfy, settle in, talk about some teams. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Double Dip Draft Season 7. I am your host, Cabral. Joining me today is...
I'm Claire, the Maryland Manectrix. It's very cool to see everybody here for Season 7.
Yeah, it's been a while since we've actually done a proper season with recordings, with videos, and covering teams and going over kind of developments. By the way, I'm coaching the Hatchling Aegis Slashers. I completely forgot to mention that.
Violet Division represent.
Woo! But we haven't done this in a while, and one of the things we do, if you're new to joining Double Dip Draft, we cover everyone's teams. We talk about weaknesses and some of the things that these teams do really well and some things they don't do as well, because we want to give you the best opportunity, the best chance to understand the ins and outs of your opponents or your own team if it's your first time playing.
Of course. And I think in Season 7, especially those weaknesses could be highlighted, because with Terras, keep in mind, Terras are exclusive to the C and D tiers. Cannot use them for your S's, A, or B's.
Yep.
But with Terras in mind, you could, listen to this, get an idea of where potentially your type weaknesses line up. You could make use of your Terras to kind of cover your weaknesses or accentuate your strengths based on where you think you're going this week. So it's a pretty interesting factor to keep in mind starting with this season.
Absolutely. And this is probably going to be one of the largest seasons and one of the more competitive seasons. And I say that because there's a lot of old kind of fights coming back up here and there across the matches we have in this first week and with the divisions and how they're laid out. But there's a lot of players who have been to playoffs a few times that are looking for some wins. And I think we're going to see quite a bit of jostling from different divisions. But today we're taking a look at this. I have to say the Scarlet Division. Division. There are 3 divisions. We have Teal, Violet, and Scarlet. We're taking a look at Scarlet today. Sorry, I blanked. I looked at like the color blue. I'm like, nope, there's blue on my desk. No, we're not doing blue.
Teal's a pretty cool color.
It is a cool color. We're not in that division. We're not there.
We are not.
We are in Scarlet today with our first team lining up to be the... Do I say the don't drop that to Dedennes, or do I just say don't drop that to Dedennes?
I'm going to call him Mr. The, last name don't drop that to Dedennes, so the don't drop that to Dedennes.
Oh, Mr. The don't drop that to Dedennes. Coached by Bananas.
Bananas. Pretty huge competitor last season, Season 6. It was his first season, and he actually won. He was a champion of Season 6. He only got 1 loss. That was in his main season to me, although he did end up beating me in playoffs. Although I will brag and say that based on main seasons, if you have fought Bananas before, I am the only one that is equal on him. We'll have to see where that goes, but that's my only real bragging point here. And again, I think you look at his draft and you kind of see that he's still got what made him such a threat in Season 6 with such a good draft.
Yeah, absolutely. Bananas first coming in, showing a really good understanding just how the season works. To come in, by the way, and be at 9 wins, 1 loss in the first season with a 29 positive differential is huge.
That's massive.
Yeah, absolutely.
He won his matches, and he won them decisively.
Yeah, but with that being said, let's go ahead and take a look at the team of the Pokemon he's drafted. We have a solid top half of this team, actually, with our S tier being Golden Go, our 8 tier being Meowscarada. We have Keldeo at A tier as well, with Reuniclus and Volcanion in B tier. Do you want to go over the C's and D tiers?
Yeah, sure, I'll cover C's and D's. C tier, Piloswine, always a classic. C tier with Vikavolt, Hitmontop, Cloth, Dragalge, Ursaring, and Lilligant. Very good. Very good overall draft, I would say.
One of the things I did notice here is Fairy can kind of hit this team a little hard here and there.
Yeah.
Not everywhere, but it can. If unchecked, I think Fairy can kind of run through this team, but, you know, it's Bananas. I'm sure Bananas has a lot of plans for that.
He's definitely got a plan.
Yeah. One of the weaker sides, and I think we've noticed this while looking at the rest of the teams in Scarlet Division, speed is very interesting this season.
Yeah, right. Because I think as a whole, if you think of season, or I should say Gen 9 OU, you think there's going to be fast ones, like you're thinking of Iron Boulder, you're thinking of Meowscarada, you're thinking of like...
Dragapult, Deoxys Speed.
Yeah. But... when you look to stat averages, I don't think you see a speed that really went over... I think our highest was 91, I want to say. Yeah. Seeing a speed average in this team of about a 70, which isn't bad. You know, you got... I think your teams are going to primarily be based on 1 or 2 high-speed tiers, and then a lot of slow, bulky picks. Yeah. Because you're going to want to survive the raw power that Gen 9 is imparting.
Yeah. And one of the other things I will say, though, about this team is the type coverage that we do see present here is pretty good. There's a lot of solid hitters. And I think the first 4, when you go from Golden Go to Reuniclus, even Volcanion in there, you absolutely have just really good synergy. Like Meowscarada, I think, covers a lot of things that Golden Go struggles with.
It's got Protean, or, you know, I don't know if it's Protean or Libero or whatever they wanted to call it.
Protein.
Yeah, but Meowscarada's doing that. It's fast enough to quickly change away from a disadvantageous type. So it doesn't get Terra, but it does get that.
Yep.
Pretty huge.
Yeah, absolutely huge. Speaking of huge, I do think... like you were saying earlier, we're going to see a lot of Pokemon take advantage of Terra. And I think one of those is, honestly, Cloth kind of goes hard with some Terra stuff.
Yeah. Yep.
And Vikavolt is really interesting, too, because you just Terra Electric, you still have Levitate. And it's such a solid hitter with sticky webs, which is great.
Yeah. It's basically just an improved version of Electros if you decide to use your Terra on Vikavolt. You're not going to be disappointed, I think.
Yeah.
Looking at Vikavolt, and this is not a dig on Vikavolt, I think this is something of Gen 9 as a whole, is the loss of Defog.
Yeah.
We noticed that a lot, didn't we?
There's a lot of Pokemon that used to get it, a lot of flying types especially. I know Pelipper lost it. There's another one.
Thundurus. My Thundurus lost it. Your Thundurus I drafted it thinking it got it.
Yeah.
It doesn't, so...
And part of that's due to a whole complex thing with, I think it's Pokemon Home and transfer datas and this and that or whatever. Right. I don't know the details exactly, but...
And Defog's probably not a TM. I didn't look too much into the actual available TMs. I'm just seeing the results, and the results are saying not a whole lot of Defog. And Vikavolt is unfortunately one of those Pokemon that fell victim to losing it. Although you do have Hitmontop, Premier Rapid Spin user.
Oh, absolutely. On top of that, I thought Cloth got Rapid Spin, but no, I'm just wrong.
I did too.
Yeah. Either way, we do have good hazard setters though. Like with him on top being the spinner, that's great and fantastic. But you know, Piloswine's fantastic for setting up rocks. Vikavolt is great for setting up sticky webs, which is wonderful. Dragalge is fantastic for your toxic spikes. Fairly solid overall with that stuff.
Get Meow with the spikes also lets you Terra into ground. Pretty solid. At least gets you away from that pretty dicey looking grass dark typing.
Yep.
But hey, you're Meowscarada, you're fast enough to change out of it.
Yeah. And one of the cool things here is like Bananas hits really hard, like both physically and specially. I'm looking at both of the stats across the board. I think Bananas has a very well-balanced team that hits hard with whatever he wants to do with that. Like Reuniclus is great bulk, but it hits so hard.
Right. So when it comes down to, so aside from that, very good team's weaknesses. Did we really notice them?
No.
Pretty
a little bit of
fast.
fairy here and there, like I mentioned, but that's not insane. You know. What do we have? Meowscarada, Keldeo, Hitmontop, Dragalge's neutral. No, it's neutral. Teferi.
You don't have the fastest mons aside from Meowscarada and Keldeo.
Yeah.
But again, like we said, speed averages. I think there are a few teams with like faster Pokemon on average, but I think the slow ones here have enough bulk to account for that speed differential.
Yeah, and I think that's gonna be what really shines. Like as fast and as hard as like the couple of top tier Pokemon on Bananas' team hit, Bananas can sit and wait on you for a while. Bananas can chip away at a lot of your team and then come in with Meowscarada and hit you really hard to steal those final blows, because it good.
He doesn't have the bulky picks like Dondozo, I would say, but I think that's like just the staller. But you do have Reuniclus, so not bad for stalling. Not the best stalls, but still pretty good walls.
Yeah. And Volcanion, we didn't even bring up. Stunning fire water Pokemon with Water Absorb. Fantastic, hits hard, good bulk on that thing too. Yes. Very good bulk. And Ursaring could be huge. Yeah, absolutely. Don't sleep on a Facade Ursaring, because that goes kind of nuts.
Lilligant, what is his mileage out of Lilligant? Unfortunately, doesn't have a manual drought setter, although those are kind of a rarity.
Yeah.
You could get a pretty good Terra out of Lilligant, so if I had to put any... I think he has really good potential when it comes to Terras. Lilligant, Vikavolt, and Cloth, I want to say, would be the ones I'd expect to see Terra the most.
Yeah. Piloswine you could potentially see as well. Get rid of that ice weakness.
True.
And Eviolite's always great.
That thing is a bulky pig guy. Yeah. Love to see it. Love to see Piloswine.
And again, don't sleep on Ursaring because it gets Guts. It also gets Quick Feet. Not that you really use Quick Feet too often with base 55 speed, but you know, Guts hit hard with this thing with base 130 attack.
Yeah. That thing is going to give you a walloping, so do watch out for Ursaring. Again, Bananas, you know, he's a great player, drafted a great draft. I'd say look out for this guy if you're in his division. He's coming for you.
Yeah. But let's continue on down the list of our division, though. Who do we have next?
Yep. Next, I think we were SFF, so that would be the San Fran Furrets.
Yeah. Which is coached by Jake, or Trash Panda. Second season, Jake was brought in middle of season 6 and came in as a replacement for whose team was it?
I don't remember.
I don't remember. It might have been Reno Rapidash team. I cannot confirm that for sure.
What that sounds about. It was either Reno Rapidash or I think it was Reno Rapidash.
Dark Dugong is the other option. I'm not sure. Either way, first season last year and came in swinging, actually, going against Aurora, a seasoned veteran, 1-0 in the very first season for Jake, and which is really cool, actually. but very new player, still new to Pokemon in general. And let's take a look at what he's got going on. Would you read the A tiers, the B tiers, and I'll get down to the C's and B's?
Sure. So S tier is Deoxys Speed.
Ooh.
A tier, yeah, Deoxys Speed. That's a huge one. We're definitely going to talk about that.
Yeah.
A tier is Hippowdon Heatran. B tier is Snorlax and Empoleon.
With C tiers rounding out to be Florigist, Noivern, Lycanroc Midday, Rotom, and the D tiers are Sandslash, Executor Alola, and Tropius. We've talked about weather a little bit with sun just a little earlier, was briefly mentioned, but this is our first and only sand team, I'm pretty sure, actually, in the whole season.
I don't recall seeing a sand team anywhere else, but yeah, you've got some good sand rush abusers in Lycanroc and Sandslash.
Yeah, and do remember, Evasion Clause is a thing now in this season, so you cannot use Sand Veil.
Ooh, that's rough, buddy.
Yeah. So we're no longer allowed to do that. So abilities that give you buffs for evasion are not allowed in Season 7 of Double Dip Draft.
Yep.
But with that being said, like you said, Sand Rush users, fantastic. And not only that, Heatran and Empoleon being Steel types don't take chip damage. Sandslash, Lycanroc, and Hippowdon don't take chip damage. A solid core, actually, for a Sand team.
I do like how Lycanroc, Midday, and Sandslash do cover. They do both get Sand Rush, but they do kind of accomplish different goals. I think Lycanroc is going to be your fast bruiser, and Sandslash, it is going to be very nice to have a Sand Rush up if you want to get rid of hazards on your side.
Absolutely. Rotom does not get defog, by the way, speaking of people losing defog earlier.
Yeah. Additionally, Empoleon is also one of the victims of a loss of defog.
Yes.
Premier defog user, Gen 8 and before, not anymore.
But with that being said, I will say the hazard setters are solid on this team. They're
so good.
There's a lot of Pokemon that just, and with sand as well, you just throw out rocks, you throw out spikes. I don't think there's a toxic spike setter. There's not.
No
toxic spikes, but you get spikes and rocks, and you already have Sand Chip. Like, that's all you really need.
And if you want a hazard setter, I really don't think you're going to be doing much better than Deoxys Speed.
Yeah.
When it comes to top tier hazard setters, Deoxys and Hisui and Samurai. And you've got Deoxys Speed. You've got that taunt usage, you've got that hazard setting, you've just got Psycho Boost if you want to deal heavy damage. Deoxys Speed just does a lot. I think it's very scary.
Yeah, and I think with some good coaching and some good help this season for being Jake's second season, he can do really well with what's been provided. I do see a few weaknesses, and we'll point those out here in just a second, but I will say that there's a lot of individually solid Pokemon on this team with the kind of sand build that's going on all around it.
Right.
But we definitely have a couple weaknesses here that we noticed.
Yeah, that would be the 5 ice weaknesses, I believe.
Yeah. We have Hippowdon, we have Noivern, we have Sandslash, we have Alolan Executor, and Tropius. We do have 2 grass types.
Yeah, 2 quad ices.
Yeah.
That's rough. Although, like I mentioned before, Terra will allow you to at least save one of these, if that is your prerogative to do so. If you think the other player has a pretty good ice user, feel free to Terra.
Yeah.
Could save a Pokemon.
Yep. And we do have a ground immunity. We have a couple ground immunities, actually. We have 3.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, which is pretty solid.
Noivern,
nice.
Rotom. Yeah, you got some solid ground, which is pretty good when you're rocking with Heatran. That thing does not like any sort of ground move.
Yeah, it really doesn't. Balloon does really benefit Heatran too. You take advantage of that, but a lot of people kind of expect it at this point, so just be prepared for people to know you're probably gonna do that.
Yeah.
But overall, I think the scariest things on this are Deoxys Speed, Lycanroc Midday gets very scary.
Yeah. if you're in a position for an offensive Terra, if you're not on the back foot and you want an offensive Terra, Lycanroc midday has the potential to go extremely hard. I think that could be a huge threat if you're fighting the Furrets and you're on the back foot and he has not popped a Terra. Lycanroc could be coming at you, so I would be careful.
Yeah, for sure. I think one of the things I've noticed, because if we look at the stats of Jake, I would say they're absolutely above average for the overall averages going on with these teams.
Yep.
And I think that really just kind of is this team. It's solid, and if played right, I think is the most, not balanced necessarily, but like it's a very jack of all trades, very versatile team.
Right.
Other than dealing,
and that's something you got to look out for.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just be careful of ice. Maybe pack a Yachi berry or two. I think that's the sweetest berry.
I think that is correct, but you know what? We can spend
right.
3 seconds to find out. You're right.
I was right. It was Yachi. I'm one of my berries. But yeah, consider a Yachi berry investment if you think you are going to struggle with some ice types and you think your defensive Terra will not be enough.
Yeah.
Just beware of ice types.
Mm-hmm. But with that being said, let's go ahead and move on. We have a lot of teams to cover in this video, and we want to make sure we can get to all of you guys without keeping you here forever.
Yep.
Because you also have 2 other videos to watch for the other divisions.
That's true.
But we're moving on to the Martian Mantines. I believe this is Black Captain's 3rd season? Second?
Yes.
Is it 3rd?
Right? Let's see. I am on the M's right now. Martian Mantines. It is his 3rd season.
It is, starting back in season 5.
Yep.
It's
Pretty good showing. With a pretty, I think, thing that stands out to me immediately would be Iron Boulder.
Yeah, it's an S tier. They usually stand out.
Yeah, but I think among S tiers, Iron Boulder is one of the, actually, we haven't even listed out the whole team. So you wanna kick us off with the S
I absolutely will kick us out. We have Iron Boulder, as we've mentioned, in S tier, followed by Thunderous Incarnate and Iron Crown in A tier, with B tier having Incineroar and Sylveon.
With these C tiers, we have Hisuian Decidueye, Quagsire, Mismagius, Fortress, Sawsbuck, Sableye, and Lapras.
Yeah. But like you said immediately, Iron Boulder stands out. It's fast, it hits hard. It does have a few weaknesses to worry about, but again, when you're going fast, you kind of hit them first, and that's what matters.
I think it's, if you're packing a booster energy at Iron Boulder, it's going to be one of the few things that kind of outguns Deoxys speed.
Yeah.
Very slim. I just said, yeah, very slim speed advantage, but it will get that speed advantage, so do watch out.
Yeah. Do watch out for Sucker Punches. Sucker Punches are really devastating to Iron Boulder because it's not the bulkiest thing. Especially, it's really good, but like physically, it's fine. It's got 90 HP, 80 defense. That's solid, but that's not, you're not going to take a lot of Sucker Punches if you're not careful.
Yeah. And I think the Pokemon that do pack Sucker Punch are going to be the ones with a good offensive stat. So, yeah. Iron Boulder's got that to be careful.
We do have a couple speedy Pokemon with Mismagius and Thunderous Incarnate, but again, we start dropping off pretty hard in speed. I think we're going to see a bit of a pattern of that for a few of these.
Right. Let's see. In our notes, we said the first fast Pokemon are pretty solid. Not a lot of hazard setters. I think we've got Quagsire and Fortress as our premier hazard setters.
That's actually it.
Yeah, that's it.
That's it. And again, Quagsire, Fortress, they're great Pokemon. They do really well, but they're good bulk, and they'll set hazards pretty well. It's just you got to watch out because if those are your only 2 and you lose them, you lose that chip advantage.
Especially Fortress, because as I mentioned in parting before, how my Thunderous Therian does not get defogged. That is a disadvantage that now afflicts Thunderous Incarnate. It also no longer gets defogged.
Yeah.
So your only hazard clearer, as well as one of your only 2 hazard setters, is Fortress. So if you want any sort of hazard control in any direction, you're going to want to keep that thing alive.
Absolutely. And that does play, though, into one of the things I have noticed is a very decent, other than some speed stuff, the distribution is pretty solid overall. Sylveon's fantastic wall. Miss Magius also takes a couple hits. And then you do have Iron Crown, of course, and that thing can take quite a few hits also. Again, Quagsire and Fortress are also really good. They rely a little more on their typing for their defenses, but that's perfectly fine. Lapras also with some good HP, some solid typing. Water Absorb is really nice. Sableye, surprisingly, you can take a couple of hits with Sableye because it's only weak to one type.
That's true. Sableye, and it also gets Prankster.
It does get Prankster.
Sableye.
Yeah.
Gotta look out for that thing. That thing might not have the most impressive stat spread, but it might be in a Smeargle situation where it's like, it's got a lot of things beyond stats that are having it kind of stand out as a danger.
Yeah, absolutely, because it does get access to Disable, which is annoying.
Yeah.
It does also get Screens. It does get Recover. It gets Thunder Wave. It gets Will-O-Wisp. It gets Taunt. Substitute. So it's really good little utility. It does get Fake Out too.
Yep. It's got
So,
Screen.
It's not
no
there.
Grimmsnarl, but okay.
Yeah, it's not Grimmsnarl, but it's fantastic overall.
I love that thing.
Yeah. We do have some really good potential Terras with Miss Magius and Sawsbuck as well. Sawsbuck is an interesting pick. We'll talk about it in a second here. Miss Magius is fantastic, by the way. Goes fast, hits hard, great Terra. It's got a pretty solid move pool, too.
Yeah. I mean, it's Ghost in general, and Ghost is just a good type.
It really is. But it also gets Will-O-Wisp, of course, Thunder Wave, Trick. It gets Taunt and stuff, but it also just kind of hits you with Psychic, Power Gem, Mystical Fire. Future Sight can be a little annoying. It gets Draining Kiss and Dazzling Gleam. It's got a good move pool and something to just kind of keep an eye out for.
And it could just, since it does have Levitate, it's kind of like a Vicable situation where you can Terra Electric. It has Levitate, boom, no more weaknesses. Although, does it have... Oh, it gets Thunderbolt, so it actually could pull off a Terra Electric pretty well.
Yeah, and it gets Thunder for some reason, too.
But on the Terra side, as we mentioned before with Fortress, you could also consider Terraing that defensively so it doesn't die. Because, again, if your opponent is packing someone with a lot of hazards, you would want to control that.
Yeah. It's just something to keep an eye out for. Interesting pickup was Sawsbuck, by the way. It does hit hard. It's got good speed, 95 base speed, 100 attack, hits hard. Gets Chlorophyll, which is nice. Gets Sap Zipper, always nice. Gets Serene Grace. Serene Grace is wonderful.
Jirachi flashbacks.
Yeah, Jirachi flashbacks. Basically, Serene Grace, for those who don't know, the secondary effects of moves, their chances are doubled. So, for instance, if it's a 30% chance for paralysis, it's now 60. And that applies to, it gets Body Slam, it gets Headbutt, it gets Play Rough,
Ooh.
and Zen Headbutt.
A little bit of... Oh, yeah, that's big.
That's actually about it, though. Its move pool is very, I feel like, minimal compared to some other Pokemon.
True, but, it is one of the Pokemon in your draft that does have the ability to Terra, so if you notice that there is a type weakness that the other person is playing at, say Psychic, Terra Psychic, Zen Headbutt, pretty not all that bad.
Yeah. Does get Sword Stance, does get Synthesis. It also does get Wild Charge, just in case you want it.
Ooh.
It does get High Horsepower. So, again,
pretty cool.
It's pretty neat. I think it just lacks from a better variety of moves, but it's a solid Pokemon. Serene Grace and Sap Zipper are really nice when you need them. I don't know how much you'll take advantage of Chlorophyll, but you do have Incineroar if you want to set up a manual Sunny Day for some reason.
you are in the division with somebody with a drought user, so maybe you counter team that. It's been done in the past before, so not impossible to make use of that chlorophyll.
Yeah. And speaking of that Sunsetter with the drought, we have the Southtown Sandslashers, coached by Spood.
Good segue.
Absolutely, I worked on that one. It's like the couch gag, totally planned.
Fucking nailing it, buddy. All right. So what are you? Let's see. Are you S tiers this time?
No, I did S tiers last time, right?
Okay. Cool.
Unless
all
I'm
right.
wrong.
So, I can get them this time then.
Yeah. That's right.
S tiers. So we're gonna read through this, and you're gonna notice a pattern pretty quickly with them. We're dealing with Walking Wake, Sandy Shocks, Scream Tail, Orthworm, and Brute Bonnet.
Oh, what? Can we just stop for a second? The first 5 Pokemon on this team are actually insane. Like, they're so
huge.
Good. You got great speed. Screamtail's fantastic bulk and defense with some really good moves. It's a great cleric with Wish. I think he gets Healing Wish too, if I remember. I might be wrong on that though, but I can always double check. But these Pokemon have photosynthesis. That's a thing they get, right?
Oh yeah, it's true. I really hope this guy's packing Sunsetter.
Oh, that'd be really crazy. Well, let's take a look at the last half down here. We have Oricorio, Quillfish, Hisui, Scovillain, and Decidueye in C tier, with Vulpix, Komala, and Glaceon rounding out D tier. So we do have a Sunsetter. It is a Sunsetter.
Right. Now it is a Sunsetter. Granted, it is Vulpix. Spood did get sniped for Torkoal, but he had a mission, and that was to get a Sunsetter, and he did get it.
By the way, I was wrong. Screamtail does not get Healing Wish.
Oh, damn.
And I will admit when I'm wrong.
Can't give it everything.
Yeah.
Can't give that thing everything.
No.
But yeah, so classic OU situation. Walking Wake in the sun.
Yeah.
That is dangerous. That is, I think, one of Scarlet Division's biggest threats.
I would have to agree. And Sandy Shocks also gets photosynthesis, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And Screamtail does too. Brute Bonnet does too.
Everything. Yep. Scovillain gets chlorophyll, so it's not photosynthesis, but, it's basically photosynthesis for speed and better.
Yeah.
That's my chlorophyll. It's photosynthesis, but speed and better.
Yeah, it really is. And Water Dragon is a great typing. Can I just say? It's actually kind of hard to deal with because the only weaknesses you have are Dragon and Fairy. Because water, it's electric, but Dragon's already resistant to it. So
Grass too.
Yeah, and that's a really good combo. So there are some things I think that can hit Cody's team fairly hard, but Cody's got a really good, kind of speedy team overall, especially his higher tier stuff.
I would say look out for your ice weaknesses, especially if you are fighting someone with freeze dry. If you are fighting someone with freeze dry, then Walking Wake, huge threat. Sandy Shocks, Brute Bonnet, Oricorio, I guess depending on the type, you could pack the Fire Flying Oricorio.
Yeah.
Decidueye doesn't like that. Scovillain gets hit neutrally, but it doesn't have the most amazing offenses, so if you get the ice drop on Scovillain and it's a hard ice hitter, then it's probably also going to get it. So I would watch out for flying and ice. I won't say ground because you do have Orthworm, and that thing does get earthy.
Also have 2 solid grass types.
Yes. Brute Bonnet. Good move pool. It is grass dark, which hurts for U-turn, and you unfortunately can't Terra since it's a B tier, so you are going to have to try and live with that grass dark. If you can, it does get Spore, so it's still a very good Pokemon.
Yeah. And I think that's just kind of the thing here. Looking at Spood's team overall, a lot of solid Pokemon. Like, there's really nothing bad here. I mean, there's Vulpix, but there's really nothing bad on this team whatsoever. Like, Glaceon's down there, and some of you might be like, well, Glaceon's not the really good evolution. But remember, we have Terra. 110 defense, 95 special defense, and 130 special attack. And it gets Freeze Dry, which is
just get
solid.
that thing the fuck out of Ice type.
Yeah. HP stat's not really there. You can use it as a cleric a little bit, but you have Screamtail for all that stuff. But I absolutely think there's a solid team here that you need to watch out for. Walking Wake is the biggest threat on this team. Sun is huge. Yep. But you know, there's a Sand team and a Rain team on this whole situation.
So I would say yes. I think when it comes to divisions that do pack weather, I think Scarlet division would be the hardest for Walking Wake to thrive in, especially when your setter is like Vulpix versus Pelipper and Hippowdon. But you do have amongst those the strongest sweeper in the form of Walking Wake, so I would say it balances that out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And speaking of Pelipper, you did mention we do have the Minnesota Jynx, coached by Menma, who is
all running together.
Rain. So we have in S tier, Latios, Archulodon and Pelipper in A tier, Barraskewda and Pecharunt in B tier. That already, before we move on, like,
that's huge.
Archulodon, Pelipper, Barraskewda, I think you were saying earlier while we're taking our notes, is
before
Ubers,
Arch was banned.
Yeah,
before Arch was banned to Ubers, the combo of Arch, Pelipper, and Barraskewda was actually the most common trio you would see in OU. So Menma's packed a huge OU threat in these three Pokemon here. You've got amazing bulk in a Pokemon that we'll have to question its A tier placement as this goes on. This might be a Zamazenta situation. You've got one of the best weather setters in Pelipper, and you've got a pretty goddamn good rain abuser in the form of Barraskewda.
Barraskewda is probably the best rain abuser out there, I feel like, overall. The 136 base speed with Swift Swim and 123 attack with a pretty solid move pool. Hurts hard, hits hard, and it makes you cry sometimes.
Yeah. I will say, coming off the discussion of Walking Wake, it doesn't hate being in the water, so I guess keep that in mind. If you are playing with water, do keep in mind that Walking Wake is part water, and it would still like that. But moving on to the C and Ds, we have Zarude, Whimsicott, Cryogonal, Kingdra, Masquerain, Thwackey, and Rhyperior.
Okay, I see.
So we're noticing some grass types.
Three grass types, actually. Not solid necessarily, but 3 grass types here. And Thwackey is such an interesting pickup.
Yeah, no. I mean, we all know Rillaboom, and this thing does become Rillaboom.
Yeah. It does give Grassy Surge, and that's kind of neat because Grassy Glide, kind of fun. But here's the thing: you get your health back because I've noticed something here. How many hazard removals are on this team?
Only one with Cryogonal. That's right. You mentioned this earlier, actually, that Pelipper does not get Defog anymore.
Yep, Pelipper does not get Defog anymore.
So, yes, your only hazard removal is going to be Cryogonal. So, as Cabral, you were implying, the Grassy Surge is very nice for recovering some of that chip.
Yeah, and that's probably going to be necessary. And also, Terra Cryogonal is a solid Terra Pokemon, I will say. Great speed, solid special attack, really nice special defense, actually. You can tear into something else, and that's really nice, I feel like.
Yeah, that's huge. Just get out of that ice type.
Yeah, well, there's actually another Pokemon who could probably really use that help, too. Down at the bottom of D tier is a Pokemon with some really decent stats. Terrible typing, and that'd be Rhyperior.
Yep. It would love to, again, you mentioned this earlier while we were taking notes, it would like to either be ground or rock, but not both, and I think that's like a very good point.
And I think that's just what we're going to see this season. We're going to see a lot of Pokemon that we don't really expect to shine because of Terra.
Right.
Let's...
Yeah. Zarude probably wants to. Again, it is fast, so it'll probably be able to pivot out. But like I'll say for probably all dark grass types, I said it for Brute Bonnet, I said it for Zarude, and I'm going to say it for my Wo-Chien. Be very careful if you're packing these Pokemon and your opponent is one to use U-turn.
Yeah. Now, I will say, with Zarude being a C tier, it is really nice that you can Terra Zarude out of dark grass. Right. Because U-turn's so prevalent.
Yeah. Pecharon, very good ability. I think if you get lucky enough to pop a few poisons, pop a few confuse hits, Pecharon can go really hard. Yeah. Especially since you know exactly what you're building for. You can kind of give it a proper resist berry or build it bulky to deal with some huge type threats. So I think do be careful with Pecharon, sleeper hit.
Yeah. We do also have a few Pokemon weak to Fairy. Nothing crazy. I think it's just 3 Pokemon with Latios, Kingdra, and Zarude.
Yes. And
Archulodon being neutral because it's Steel and Dragon. But definitely something to watch out for if you're not careful. And I think that's a lot of teams. We didn't mention this in Spood's team, but a few of these teams, if you let someone set up, I guess this is any team really, realistically. Like if you let anyone set up properly, you just get swept. But there's specific Pokemon that do really good at it, and you need to watch out for those.
Yeah. Whimsicott, classic prankster user.
Yeah.
IDM picked this in the previous season, and if you're a Pokemon getting picked by IDM, definitely something worth considering in the next season, because he had made pretty good use of Whimsicott, as I recall correctly. I mean, yeah. It's a Stun Spore user, it's a prankster user, it's a fairy type, so you get that dragon immunity.
Yep.
Very good pick. I think you're going to see a lot of mileage out of Whimsicott.
Yeah, absolutely.
You mentioned Kingdra when we were going over these notes.
I did, and I think people kind of skim over Kingdra. Like, we talked about Walking Wake and Water Dragon being a solid typing, and it is. Kingdra's Water Dragon, its stats kind of make you look at it and go, well, it's 95, like 75 HP, 95 the rest, and like speed's 85. And like, that's fine and all, but we're on a rain team, and it gets Swift Swim.
Yeah.
And that's kind of nice with 85 base speed. It's fairly solid, but Kingdra gets Sniper.
Ooh. So you can't pack Swift Swim and Sniper, but if you can probably craft a good enough scenario where you can make use of one or the other.
Yeah, and what's also nice is you do get Dragon Dance with Kingdra too.
Yeah.
It does get Flip Turn. It has utility that way. It gets Wave Crash, which is a solid water move. Or you can run Weather Ball if you want to, which is a fantastic water move. It does get Hurricane. It gets Flash Cannon for some reason. I don't know why. It does get Flash Cannon.
Gets it. It certainly does. So yeah, Kingdra, I think, has huge potential in either the special or the physical side. It's kind of like it's kind of similar to a Mew situation where you don't really know what type it's going to be building in, so be careful of your weaknesses if you are fighting Kingdra. Lean more into the physical or special depending on your weaknesses for that week if you are fighting Kingdra.
Yeah.
Because it can definitely capitalize on either.
One other thing Kingdra gets is Scale Shot.
Yes.
And Scale Shot is a 90 accurate move, so it's not the most accurate thing, but it is 25 base power, hits 2 to 5 times, and loaded dice is a wonderful item.
Yes.
So you lose 1 defense after using it, but you get +1 speed after the last hit. And that's kind of really cool.
Yeah. And you're packing that with a sniper.
Yeah.
Yes. And if you're looking at, like, you know, Garchomp gets Scale Shot, what does Kingdra get that Garchomp doesn't? Dragon Dance.
And Ice Resist.
So you're pairing... yeah. Well, Ice Neutrality, but still.
Ice Neutrality.
Well, You could actually, well, since you can Terra, you could just turn it into an ice.
Just water.
Survival resist. Yeah, just make it water.
Yeah. But that's actually pretty solid, and I think people kind of usually overlook Kingdra as like it's okay because of its stats, but there's a few things here that you should probably be looking out for because it does a few things really well.
Yes. Yeah, Minnesota Jynx just in general, pretty scary team. Look out for them. They've got some pretty good cores there. You know, they've got the classic OU core. They've got Kingdra to capitalize. They've got Masquerain for webs and intimidate. Thwacky, very good low tier offense pick. Rhyperior, very good low tier defense pick. So yeah, they've kind of got a little bit of everything.
A little bit of everything. They are lacking a little in special defense, I would say, with only Latios and Crowgonal having above 100 special defense.
Right. Dragon hurts pretty hard.
Yeah. And that's something you just keep an eye out for. If you are Minnesota Jynx, you gotta watch out for those weaknesses, but if you're not, you know, just keep in mind that Dragon kind of hits pretty hard other than Whimsicott.
Yeah. I will say, if you do want to be a Dragon type fighting against this team, do try to be special defense, because you might be physical Dragon, but you're gonna have to fight Arch, and that thing's already got a massive defense stat, and it's just gonna get higher because it has stamina.
Yeah, and stamina's insane.
Yeah, it's huge.
Yeah, there is on the next team. You're mentioning other dragons that hit really hard. The Loafville Lanturns, coached by White Loaf. I don't know why I was thinking of Nick Loaf. Nick Loaf isn't inaccurate, I guess. Coached by White Loaf, and Nick has been here for quite some time.
He's a mainstay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Host of the Extra Cheesy.
Yeah. Has been here since season 1, by the way. Hasn't played every season. Didn't play in season 5. But has been here since season 1, much like the Southtown Sandslashers.
And some of his placements have been very impressive. 4th in season 2, 9th in season 6. So season 6 being the most recent.
Yep.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good work.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you definitely cannot sleep on Nick. He's a pretty good player.
Yeah,
I think he's like 9th in the league.
Ooh, I can check that while you read us the S's and B's.
Sure. Let's see. So for his S tiers, he's got Vexcalibur, Glamora, Rillaboom, Chandelure, and Hisuian Gudra. I think that's 5. So yes, that would be his S's and B's.
And you are correct. White Loaf is sitting at 9th in our power ranking on the master sheet, which you can always check out, by the way, over on the announcements tab in Double Dip Draft. You can get to the master sheet that way, or you can head over to the League Documents chat and find all this information there. We're currently relying and using the Double Dip Draft matchup tooling sheet, and it's fantastic to be able to compare and contrast your teams to your opponents. But on top of that, I'll read out the rest here. We have Gardevoir in C tier with Klefki, Tauros, Paldea, Aqua, and Bellybolt in C tier, as well as Girder, Chimecho, and Marshtomp in D tier. Hey, Girder. That's not a bird, but it gets
It's
defog.
not, but you know what? Yeah. So Empoleon does not get defog. Girder, yes it does.
Pelipper doesn't get defog.
Yep, all these cool birds. But you know what does get it? A guy holding a steel beam. You got Bender from Futurama over here learning how to use defog.
That's so crazy. That's insane.
But yeah, his first 3 Pokemon are again pretty good OU staples, at least in the first few months of SV. Vexcalibur, I'm pretty sure has been banned, and I don't think it came back with DLC 2. I could be wrong, but I don't think it did. Glamora, that's just the hazard setter. It's going to set rocks, it's going to set toxic spikes, and it's going to mortal spin you into a poison and clearing out all the hazards on its side. So
yeah,
Glamora, pretty scary.
It's kind of insane. And there's some solid Pokemon on this team. We have Klefki, great prankster. IDM used it. Wonderful Pokemon. And it gets Screens, it gets Thunder Wave, I'm pretty sure, and it's just really good.
It gets Steel Fairy, and that in and of itself is just good.
Mm-hmm. We also have another Steel Pokemon, but you do have Hisuian Gudra with some amazing stats.
Yeah. It's got a little bit of everything, especially special defense. That thing is going to be living some hits.
Mm-hmm. Imagine assault vesting that thing.
That thing is going to be living. It's if he sees you run a mainly special attack, he's probably going to pack an assault vest on that.
Yeah, most likely. And also, we definitely have a lack of speed. This is definitely one of the slower teams in this division, with the average speed being 71, and the fastest Pokemon being Tauros at 100 base speed. That is the fastest Pokemon. And the second fastest is Baxcalibur at 87.
At 87.
Yeah.
Though it does like its Dragon Dance.
It does like its Dragon
Dance. I would be
Dance.
careful. Things are not always as they seem with Baxcalibur.
No.
That thing might be outspeeding you pretty quick.
And the thing is, too, we do have some solid Pokemon on this team. Like, speed is not everything, and I know we keep mentioning averages on stats and stuff, but, like, there's ways to work with that stuff. It's just things, you know, we want to make sure we point out all the things the teams have going on.
Again, in terms of speed not mattering all that much, you do have a Rillaboom with a Grassy Glide.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
You know, part of work instead of a Trick Room.
Ooh, that's true. Girder and Trick Room, I wouldn't want to be fighting that.
Yeah. You know, Chimecho's here.
Yeah. Chimecho, I think it's one of the few Pokemon that has Heal Bell capabilities.
Mm-hmm.
Heal Bell, Aromatherapy capabilities, although I think it only gets Heal Bell. Yeah. But still, getting rid of hazards, or getting rid of, I guess, status conditions in a Glimora society is very good, although I guess I wouldn't say you have to worry about getting poisoned by Glimora, because you have it.
Yeah.
But it's still nice to have.
It is, for sure. And again, there's a lot of other solid Pokemon here. Bellybolt is actually pretty fun.
Pretty slow, but it does have pretty good HP, pretty good special attack. You know, I'd count on that thing living large and hitting hard.
Living large and hitting large.
Living large, hitting large.
Yep, that's all.
Bigger they are, harder they fall.
Now, we do have a ground weakness I've noticed going on here.
Mm-hmm.
With Hisuian Gudra, Klefki, Bellybolt, Glimora.
I think that's 5, I want to say.
Yeah. Oh, and Chandelure.
Although, you know, I do think Hisuian Gudra would make, you know, it'd probably eat a ground move pretty handily. I would think you'd have to run damage calcs on it. Oh, Rillaboom is amazing. Oh my god, that's right, because grassy terrain does have the power of Earthquake.
Yes, it does.
Yeah, you know, actually, you know, you might not have, if you're running physical, maybe you're not actually hurting for ground all that much. You got Rillaboom looking out for you as a sleeper support role.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so pretty good all around. You have, at the very bottom, Marsh Stomp.
Yeah.
I think we were looking into that. Pretty good, actually, defensively.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, it's a middle evolution. You might not expect too much of it. But,
no, but Eviolite's,
you know, 70, 70, 70. Eviolite, very good. You had a pretty good typing with Water Ground. You know, you're only weak to one thing. Mm-hmm. So you're probably going to be soaking some moves. It's a pretty good hazard setter.
Yeah.
Ooh, it does not learn Toxic. No. But still, it does a lot of other things very good. So, you know, I'd definitely not sleep on Marsh Stomp just because it's a middle Evo.
Yeah.
I think it's got the power.
There's a lot that, like, Nick's got solid Pokemon. I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with a lot of the Pokemon that we see here presented as team. I think it is a little slow, And I think it's at a point,
Right.
like, Trick Room's nice, but you're kind of in that middle range of, like, a lot of 80s. And Trick Room Pokemon don't do amazingly well in 80s, because you're right at that teetering point of bulky Pokemon live there that you're fighting, and they still hit hard.
Right.
But absolutely solid. Grassy Surge is insane. Pecharunt is... Oh, not Pecharunt, sorry. Grassy Terrain is a lot of fun. Mortal Spin is the thing to watch out for, honestly.
Yep. So Glimora just does everything. It poisons you. It has a sky-high special attack stat.
Yeah.
Yeah. Watch out for this team.
I agree. For sure.
But yeah, with that, do we mention Terra Potential?
Not in this team, no. There's definitely a few things here that could take advantage of it, but it's not. I feel like it's not as strong as some other teams, personally.
Right. Which I think is, has its own set of strengths, I believe. Because you don't want to depend too heavily on Terra, because you only get one.
Yeah.
And they're going to know what it is, because it's Terra Preview.
Yes.
So having a team that doesn't decisively stand out when it comes to Terra is good. I think is very good in its own way. I mean, you could Terra Psychic Gardevoir, you can Terra Fairy Gardevoir.
Yeah.
Which is good, but you don't necessarily need to do that as long as you put yourself in a good spot. You can Terra Girder in case you're dealing with like a Flying Fairy Psychic core.
Yeah.
Yeah, as a whole, I don't think you're particularly clamoring to get into a specific Terra type, which I think is good. They're not going to be expecting you to Terra any sort of specific Mon, I believe.
Yeah, and that's the thing too with Terra Preview, right? So yes, the other Pokemon your opponent can Terra and they're all different. Because again, we can't Terra the top tiers, and I know some players are already working on building I'm gonna do Stellar or normal Terra, so I know not to Terra these Pokemon or whatever, right? And I know some people are already doing that, but you still don't know which Pokemon your opponent's going to Terra. The battle is so dynamic that you can't just be like, well, of course you're going to Terra Girder this fight. You don't know that. Like, Klefki could be set up for Psychic for some reason.
Yeah.
And that makes a lot of the matches very unique and independent from one another. And I think...
Right.
And I think this adds a whole nother level of preparedness when looking at teams and fights and stuff. Like, sure, we're going to be bringing Klefki and Girder and Hisui and Gudra this fight, but you also see Marsh out there with a weird
What
hair.
are you doing?
What's
he got planned?
Yeah. So
What's he doing? What's your stunt doing?
And I think that's just going to be what it is this season. I think that makes this season really exciting to see all the stuff going on with these Terras and these people's strategies. But we do have a few teams left, so let's cover the last of it. We got
Sure.
We got the Heerlen Hawluchas next.
Ooh, Vincent.
Another
huge player.
Been here for a while now as well. Since season 3, it looks like.
3.
Yeah.
And he has made playoffs in every single one. Discounting extra cheesy, although because that is Gen 4 OU.
Yeah.
Pretty weird, but main season. Also, that doesn't count for stats. So if you're just looking at the seasons that count stats, there is not a season where he has dropped below 5th. Ever since season 3 where he started playing.
Yep. Solid win-loss ratio
threat. Oh yeah, absolutely huge. His differential's great. His rating is great. He's at league rating 8.
Yep.
Good win percentage. And that's not even mentioning the team that he's brought this season.
Yeah, starting off with Landorus Incarnate at S tier. Sheer Force is allowed this season.
Yes, it is.
Rabombi in A tier. Ogerpon Cornerstone, Alola Mola, and Infernape. Those are his S, A's, and B tiers.
Yep. For his season B's, he's got Tatsugiri, Tentacruel, Bisharp, Farigiraf.
Yeah, Farigiraf.
That sounds right. Passimian, Misdreavus, and Glimmet for his final D tier. Glimmet,
Glimmet gets what is it?
Toxic Debris.
Yeah, Toxic Debris, right?
Yeah, and it becomes Glimora, user of the fearsome Mortal Spin ability.
So surely Glimmet gets Mortal Spin, right? Right?
Yeah, absolutely crazy. It actually does not get
What?
Mortal Spin.
Oh no.
And it is at a very precarious typing with the Rock Poison.
Yeah.
Got a few weaknesses. Granted, it does have a few resists. Some solid resists, some strong resists. But it doesn't get half of the things that make Glimora so fearsome. It has a pretty solid special attack. Although it doesn't really have the speed or bulk to cover it. Again, it does get Toxic Debris, so it's not bad. It also has Corrosion. Maybe you could see a sleeper Corrosion Terra pick if you're fighting someone with a Steel type. So I wouldn't say all hope is completely lost.
Yeah, but it's not going to be taking any hits anytime soon.
No.
Unless you Terra. But even
that's
then,
true.
it's 48 HP, 42 defense, 60 special
you'd have
defense.
Terra. Yeah, and, you know, Toxic Debris is nice. It gets you some Toxic Spikes on the field. And I would say, if you did not have any other Toxic Spike setters available to you, Glimmet might actually be a pretty good pick. But he does have a Toxic Spike setter, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's got Tentacruel, which is a fantastic Pokemon, actually.
Yeah, and Tentacruel also gets another move, kind of similar to what Glimora gets. It's Hazard Clearing move.
Oh, yeah.
That Glimmet does not get. So it gets Toxic Spikes and Rapid Spin. So kind of a, I wouldn't say discount Glimora situation, since they accomplish very different things besides that. But, you know, Tentacruel is your Toxic Spike setter. It is your Rapid Spinner to clear hazards. So it kind of does some of the things that Glimora is known for doing.
Yeah. Now, Glimmet can use EV Light. That's obviously a thing as well.
Yeah.
But even then, 40 HP really holds you back, I feel like.
Yeah. Although, I will say, with that Glimmet talk kind of concluded, that's actually really kind of the only main weakness I pick out for Vincent's team. Yeah. Because the rest of his team is absolutely kind of monstrous, actually.
It really is.
Especially Landorus Incarnate, now that it is allowed to run Sheer Force.
And we also have Rabambi just sitting there in A tier, and that thing alone with Sticky Webs, it gets Quiver Dance, and then it also gets Shield Dust. Is that what it is?
That sounds about right.
It is Shield Dust. I was right. And basically, Shield Dust, this Pokemon is not affected by the secondary effect of another Pokemon's attack, which is
got a Covert Cloak built into it.
Yeah, and it's kind of neat. It also does get Sweet Veil, so, you know, it cannot fall asleep, which is nice. But
gets U-Turn.
Gets U-Turn, gets Calm Mind, gets Leech Life. Not that you're going to use that. Gets Moonblast, Psychic Noise. Quiver Dance is just what this thing does, and it does it so well.
Rabambi just does so much. I would not... I mean, this thing was like PU in Gen 8. Soared all the way up to a Gen 9 situation. I'm going to probably attribute that, and again, I'm not big into like the reasonings behind what goes where, but I think one of the reasons that Rabambi has landed in UU prevalence is the loss of defog. There's not a lot of hazard clearers, and because of that, Sticky Web has really come into its own.
It really has.
Next, Ogerpon Cornerstone. It's one of the few Pokemon that gets a 100% accurate rock move. The other being Iron Boulder, I think, are the most prevalent users of these 100 accuracy rock moves.
Yeah. I will say with the Ogerpon, it is dependent on which type you are for your Ogerpon.
Right.
So the move is Ivy Cudgel, which is a high crit move, 100 power, 100 accuracy set, but the type depends on the user's form. So with Cornerstone, it's a rock type move.
Yep.
It gets knockoff, gets lash out as well.
Horn Leech.
Yep. Spikes.
Pivots out on U-turn.
Yep.
I mean, Ogerpon just like, even if Cornerstone is I want to say one of its lowest tiered forms. I still wouldn't sleep on it in a draft format because of these many good attributes that it has accredited towards it.
And
good speed, good attack, good moves.
Oh yeah, and we have a really solid cleric on this team with a Loafville. It's just 165 HP. Its special defense is very dismal, but my goodness, even then, you're just wailing away at this thing a lot of times, unless you like.
And it's just not gonna die.
It's not, and it gets Regenerator.
Yep, and starting this generation, it got a pivot move.
It got Flip
Turn.
Turn.
It did not get in Gen 8. It did, yes.
It gets Healing Wish too,
so
just in case. But again, you could just Flip Turn. You can just stall time.
And you Flip Turn, you get the Regenerator on the switch out.
Yep.
I mean, Alome is just doing a whole lot more this generation that it couldn't do last just because it gets Flip Turn.
Yep. It also gets Screens, it gets Wish. It's very versatile for being a solid cleric Pokemon.
Now, does it still get Scald?
It does.
Because I know that move became heavily restricted
it does get
as of Gen
still.
9. Oh, yes, it came back as a TM, didn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it got Scald back down the line, so, you know, if it was DLC 1 or pre-DLC, I don't know if it would have ended up here, but now that it does, now that it gets Scald back, well, definitely keep an eye on this thing. Huge bulk, huge potential.
Yeah, and watch out for Tickle. It lowers your attack and defense by 1.
Yeah, you're gonna, if this thing starts tickling you, you're done.
I don't know how it does it, but it sure does it.
Got flippers or something.
I don't even know if it has flippers. That's a joke, by the way. I'm just being dumb. Don't at me. Don't hate me. I'm just trying to be funny.
Yeah, so...
But the rest of this team, I will say, there's some great... Bisharp is stunning. It's so good. It takes hits. It gets Eviolite now. It can Terra. It can Terra.
It can Terra. Terra Eviolite. Ooh.
Yep. Tatsugiri.
Bisharp,
fantastic. Mischievous.
Also Rapid Spin.
Decent. Oh, yeah, it does. Yes. Why does it get Rapid Spin? Why does it do that?
That tiny fish is going to be spinning so fast. So he has 2 hazard clears. Again, kind of mitigating the need for Glimmet being there. But aside from that, you know, if you're in a team where it's like, I think 10 out of 11 of your Pokemon are really good, that I think you aren't even really hurting by having Glimmet there, that's kind of a testament to how good your draft is.
Yeah, I have to agree with that. Overall, there's a lot of things that Vincent has going on his team that are just really well done and really fun. He's pretty fast overall, like nothing crazy, but I mean, Lando Eye, Rabombi is insane actually. Ogerpon, Infernape, and Tentacruel. Tentacruel fast. 100 base speed, Tentacruel fast.
Tentacruel fast.
It's a solid team overall. Now, we do have some ground weakness here and there.
Yep. We have 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah, 4. It's nothing crazy. You know, Lando Incarnate is fantastic. You can Terra to get rid of some of that too. And again, you have a Alomomola. And
ooh, yeah, that thing's going to be living some hefty ground.
Oh yeah, absolutely will. So I expect to see that at a lot of games. Now, with that being said though, I will say something that stands out to me. We only have 1 Pokemon with 100 base defense. Obviously, Eviolite's the thing with some of these Pokemon. But base-wise, Bisharp's the only thing with 100 defense.
Yeah.
And
so beware of physical.
Yep. And Tentacruel is the only thing with anything above 100 special defense.
Yeah.
The rest is all fairly low and everything, but again, you know, there's plenty of Pokemon here that can take a hit, they can get Eviolite, or they can get set up with Assault Vest, or they have moves to get them set up and stuff. So, just because we're like, oh, you know, the defense stat's low, you gotta hit them physically, you gotta find, again, we said this earlier, it's gonna be very individual and unique per team you fight and what goes on.
Just the broad strokes here, really.
For sure. And ending these broad strokes that we've painted for you today in this video, we have our final and last team, the Lansdowne Luxrays.
So yeah, Lansdowne Luxrays, you mentioned that they are a new player.
Yeah, he's brand new, first time ever being in a league of any sort.
Ooh.
So no history, no nothing. I believe he has knowledge of Pokemon, but no knowledge of like draft necessarily, but has a big interest and is very excited.
So why don't you kick us off with his first SABs?
Sure thing. The SABs, the SAB.
The SABs.
Yeah, the SABs. We got Hisuian Samurott, an S tier. Wonderful, just setter of hazards. Garganacl in A tier with Moltres Galar, and in B tier we have Poltegeist, you're biased, and Mimikyu.
Yes, I am. I'm very biased. Rounding it out with the CDs, Appleton, Bronzong, Jolteon, and Blaziken for his C tiers. For the Ds, we have Furret, Trapinch, and last one is the namesake of the team, Luxray.
I think Luxray was drafted because it's Luxray.
I don't blame you. I mean, my first season, I did I think I was like, before Double Dip Draft even became a thing, I was in like the proto season one.
Oh,
I picked
something or other, Smogon?
Yeah, it was something. And back then, I'm the Maryland Manectric, so I drafted Mega Manectric. So I definitely get the need to pick your namesake. It makes you feel pretty cool, I will admit, and it is pretty cool.
And I did that for my first season too. I drafted Aegislash.
Yeah, Aegislash huge. And we will mention this later on, but I think there is huge potential for Luxray, thanks to a few additions as a result of DLC 2. But Samurott Hisui, you mentioned before, amazing hazard setter, especially with Ceaseless Edge.
Yeah.
Grants you offense to break a sash, do anything, get past taunt, just hit dark, and you're setting spikes. Amazing move.
Yeah, a lot of these Pokemon actually are really good at setting some hazards. Not a lot, but a few of them for sure are pretty good at doing that.
Right.
And, we talked about Terra potentials and stuff, right? Jolteon is such a good Terra Pokemon.
Jolteon's huge.
Amazing
special attack.
Yeah, and it's got decent move pool overall, but again, you Terra Ground, you Terra Ice, Terra Dragon Jolteon, or whatever you need. Goes fast, hits hard, and that's all you need. And I think a lot of this team is going to rely on, because a lot of slow Pokemon here, I'm not going to lie. At 68 average speed, we have Bronzong, we have Trapinch, we'll get the Trapinch, we have Appleton, we have Garganacl, everything under 40 base speed right there that I just listed. Jolteon is the only Pokemon above 100 base speed.
Yeah. It's really the only thing. We got Mimikyu at 96, but still, as a whole, pretty slow, but that's not always a bad thing.
No.
And I don't think it's a bad thing here either.
Yeah. And one of the things for that we can play with is, one, Bronzong can absolutely just Trick Room in this team. And I think with how slow, some of the slowest Pokemon we've seen, there is another team, we're not covering that, the Hunsberg Hunters have a slower team somehow.
Yeah.
Average
59 stat average.
59 average speed for the Hunsberg Hunters.
But Pincurchin goes hard though.
It does go hard, but not in this division. This is the slowest team in this division. And absolutely will take advantage of that. Trapinch is the slowest Pokemon here, with 10 speed. But
very slow.
Trapinch fun. Trapinch has 100 base attack and a priority move.
Good. And it has Arena Trap, so if this thing gets in good, and it knows it can capitalize on what's in front of it, Trapinch can make some pretty quick work of what's in front of it if it makes good use of its Terra, good use of its held item, good use of its move.
Yeah, Trapinch is absolutely something that can work really well, but you have to play it right and you have to know what you're doing with it when you go to put it out and play it and work with that stuff. A lot of this
high
team
risk, high reward.
Has great momentum. Volt switching with Jolteon. I think Furret gets U-turn ?
Yes, it does.
Moltres Galar also gets U-turn, so you can switch around and get some stuff out there. But you can set hazards. Mimikyu can come in, take a hit. You can set it up if you want with a Swords Dance. Fantastic for doing that or whatever. Furret gets Tidy Up. It has base 90 speed. That boosted speed.
And attack.
Yes, and it has 76 base attack. And it's kind of neat. It is the only hazard removal here, though.
Yeah, that is the one thing. That is like the main weakness that jumps out at me on this team, is that its only hazard removal is Furret.
Yeah.
And your two top tier Pokemon, two of your top tiers are like the poster child of the Gen 9 hazard setting meta.
Yeah.
And your only hazard removal will also remove those hazards.
Yeah.
So it's a tricky balance you've got to play around. It would have been nice to have a Rapid Spinner. I mean, it is good to have hazard removal. Unfortunately, you only have one, and the only move is Tidy Up. But I think there is still plays to be made there.
Yeah. And it's definitely going to be something where you have to keep an eye on not just that, but how many Pokemon here are weak to Fairy? A few?
1, 2,
3.
3.
Okay, so not that bad, actually.
We have 4 weak to ground, but we do have an immunity. We have 2 if Bronzong is running Levitate, although it's hard to tell with Bronzong because it also likes to make good use of Heat Creep.
It does.
So Bronzong it's got pretty good resistances to both ground and fire, depending on how you want to build it.
Yeah. And speaking of
I will.
Building, oh, good, because you're bringing up Blaziken right now, aren't you?
I actually wasn't. I was about to bring up Poltegeist. I will say, when it comes to Poltegeist, you look at it and you might initially think, well, it's got weak armor, it's got stored power, it's got Shell Smash. It can be a great setup sweeper, but you can also flip that on its head, run Cursed Body, you can run Will-O-Wisp, you can run Strength Sap, you can run Screens. Well, I think it can only set up Light Screen, but still. You have a very good way of neutralizing some of the heftiest physical attackers on the team. If you're able to get in there with a Strength Sap, get in there with a Burn, now some of those ground weaknesses are kind of getting pushed back a bit because Poltegeist has some pretty good ways of neutralizing those.
Yeah, for sure. And I brought up Blaziken briefly because Speed Boost is banned on Blaziken, and we just want to make sure people know that. We do have some complex bans on certain abilities from Pokemon. Some got lifted, some got reinforced, and some are just kind of, just mainstays. But it's just something to keep an eye out and double check the rules and read those before you do your fights. Again, don't tear up B tiers, A tiers, or S tiers.
Yep.
Just want to stress that. But we talked about some Pokemon that are really decent at kind of being slow and good in that. Luxray is an interesting option.
Yes, especially because of DLC 2 with a move that Luxray now has access to. So in the past, Luxray has, it has a pretty good attack stat of 120. It's got Intimidate. It's got Rivalry if, I guess you get lucky on the gender multiplication. Although that could be as good as it is bad because it has a damage bonus on same gender, damage subtraction on opposite gender, so could be pretty spicy if you do bring it. You also get Guts. Pretty solid.
Guts solid. Toxicorp. Nice. Hey, it gets Supercell Slam, doesn't it?
It does, yes. It's basically the electric version of High Jump Kick. What is it? Like a 95 accurate move, 100 power. So I think it's a little weaker than High Jump Kick, although it does have the same missing penalty of losing 50% of your max HP.
Yeah.
But it does give Luxray that one powerful physical electric move that it has been hurting for ever since its implementation in Gen 4.
Yeah. It does also get Wild Charge at 90 and 100% accuracy. You do take a 4th recoil instead of half your health. But either way, Supercell Slam just ekes out that little bit of power Luxray could use, especially with Guts.
Yeah.
And here's the thing, it gets Quick Attack, and Quick Attack's really good at just chipping away at little things here and there.
You never know if you just need that little bit of damage left. That could have clinched you the win, but you just didn't get because you did not have priority.
Yep. And its move pool's okay. You know, it does get the Fang attacks, Ice Fang, Thunder Fang, Fire Fang. It does get Psychic Fangs. Very not common Fang attack, Psychic Fangs. I feel like only a few Pokemon get that.
I will say, Psychic Fangs is giving you the ability to destroy screens on the target side. So if you see that they are a team that is one to establish screens, you can use Psychic Fang and deal with that.
Facade is also fantastic. Since you're toxic, you're running Guts. Facade's a fantastic 140 base power move when you are poisoned.
Right.
You also get Trailblaze if you do want to kind of like try get a little speed. It's base 70. You can work that to outspeed a couple little things, but it's not likely. You're on that teetering edge of speed being okay, but like anything that's decent in terms of Pokemon, it's gonna likely outspeed you by a bit, or can just eke you out. But you also do get Volt Switch, which is really nice for momentum.
So much stuff gets Trailblaze.
Yeah, well, a lot of things do. All the evolutions now get it too.
That's nuts.
Yeah. One of the things as well, we don't have a great speed sound this year. We mentioned that. We also don't have any clerics. Like, at all, really.
Any wish passers, any sort of status ailment heals, although we didn't really see a whole lot of that for the other team, so not necessarily a negative here. It's just if you have toxic spikes up. Ooh, actually, no grounded poison.
Yeah, no grounded poison.
That could be rough. I mean, you can Terra Poison,
but you have to switch out
you are spending
and come back in.
Exactly. So toxic spikes could be a little dangerous here.
Yeah, you gotta keep an eye on that.
Yeah, I think my advice would be try and look. I mean, I wouldn't want to say that's my advice, but maybe you would like to consider trading for grounded poison if you're able to find it.
Yeah, could be pretty nice.
Because it would be nice. You are in a division with Glamora. I do want to point that out.
Yeah. On top of that, I will say, one thing this team does pretty well. Jolteon's huge. And
Jolteon's big.
Having a Pokemon that fast with Terra capabilities that hits that hard is really nice, because when you have all your stuff set up, so if you're doing hazards on your opponent's side of the field and you're chipping away, Jolteon can come in, it can Volt Switch, or it can hit with something, because a lot of times Jolteon is going to hit most things pretty hard with a few exceptions. But if you can really plan around that, that's huge. And here's the other thing that I kind of forgot to mention in our notes. Furret gets Super Fang.
Ooh, that could be fun.
And Super Fang, if you don't know, basically just does half health. However much health your opponent has, half of it's gone, no matter what.
Yep.
I think there's exceptions like Disguise. I don't think it goes around Disguise.
Right.
But like, that's solid. That's huge because it's fairly fast. Super Fang, U-turn, Jolteon, Volt Switch, whatever you need to do. And you can just kind of keep chipping away at your opponent that way.
Right.
And Trapinch is the boy. He is the best.
Trapinch, yo. I think we got huge Trapinch potential.
Yeah. I think we got quite a bit here. But, you know what? For a first season, first draft, I think there's quite a few solid Pokemon here. And I think there's absolutely ways to make this work. I think there's ways to make any team work, really.
Exactly.
It's just all down to the player.
Yep. Make good use of your Terras, make good use of your abilities, because there's definitely some niche stuff that you might not be seeing. So just pour over those moves you got, because there's probably some spice that you might not have noticed right off the bat.
Absolutely. And feel free to just keep an eye on the other divisions as well. Be sure to check out Teal Division. Be sure to check out Violet Division, where we're both playing in. I'm very scared to see what everyone else has said about our teams.
I will say, if you're a first-time player and you are looking for some advice, do feel free to branch out, because a lot of people here are very friendly. They're always willing to help someone out.
Absolutely, and it's just a wonderful, fun time here. But please, this is the start of the season. Season 7, I think, is going to be huge. I think it's going to be fun, and I'm very excited to see where all of this goes. But with that being said, we've gone through all of our teams. We've got some matches to watch coming up this week, so be prepared for that. You'll see Claire and I again covering Scarlet Division most likely. If not Claire, then Aurora will be here with myself. You know, we'll have a good time. We'll have some fun. We'll make sure you're all informed on the who's it's and what's it's and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
For sure. Well, with that being said, thank you so much for joining us. Please check out the other divisions, like we said. Hang out of the Discord and keep an eye out for some matches, because I'm very eager to see how Season 7 plays out. Before we do this, let's make a bet here on this this squeaky pew that you pulled out here.
Making a bet. All right.
Who's taking the money? Who's going to win the entire thing right now? Who's your guess?
My guess would be, you know what? I would like it to be me. I think whenever IDM's here, you always have to be careful. But I would have to put it on the... Let's put it on the Zaxel guy, the Zaxel Guild Glycopods.
He's not playing.
You never know. Late entry.
You know what? That's fair. I'm actually, you know what? I think Spood has a solid shot of winning the whole thing.
Oh yeah.
I'm not just saying that because like, oh, Spood's gonna hear these recordings. I'm just because Walking Wake and that Sun team he has is absolutely
that could be a huge threat.
Bonkers. And I don't think a lot of other divisions are really ready. I think Bananas has a stunning water team too. I think that match this first week will really determine a lot of how playoffs is going to go. I do think you versus Aurora this week's also going to be huge. I think those are really the matches to watch this week for like how are things going to shake up. Obviously, there's other big matches. We have Vincent fighting the new player, and I think that's going to be huge if Vincent gets a sweep and gets the score up. But we'll have to see all that stuff. Oh yeah, who's Cam fighting?
Playing, I think he's fighting
Firebolt.
Firebolt. That could be big.
Oh, it could be
two
big.
very good players. I'm excited to see that match. Cam's my boy.
Yep. Oh, we do have Nihilus versus the Miami Milotics. New player with Miami Milotics. Don't know how they are. Don't know how it's gonna go, but Nihilus fantastic.
Scoots playing the Cresselia. So Cresselia's drafted a mono poison. Very interesting. I want to see how that plays out, though.
I think we're gonna see an interesting pattern emerge. I think there's teams where, because like, man, you know what? I think we should wait. There's other divisions to go watch. We're not here to analyze the other teams and talk about that. It's fun to theorize and everything, early. But like, it's too early to say things. I do think that Spood's team's kind of my pick for this season, though, to take it all the way to playoffs and to like kind of win the whole thing.
I want it to be me.
I think you also have a really solid chance too. But that Sun team, I'm
excited to see how everyone goes. I want to see some sleeper picks get into playoffs.
I want to see funny D tiers.
That'd be very fun.
Just win.
I want to see funny D tiers.
Slack King's here this season. I love Slack King. I ran it in extra cheesy.
We got Cam with the Terapagos. That's a huge pick. I love Terapagos.
Let's go.
It could be huge. Go Terapagos.
Well, with that being said, we're gonna take off for now. We're already an hour and a half into this thing, and
oh my god.
Yeah. We need to wrap this up. But thank you all so much for watching. Take care. Have a wonderful Season 7. Best of luck, everybody. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.